Derek here, rural investor. Disclaimer, not financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own due diligence before making any investment decisions and consult any professional as you see fit. All right, so today I think in the previous few videos we've gone through a lot, so I'm going to summarize here in a second. And we're going to actually build out an income producing portfolio that has some diversity that you can sort of set and forget, and we're going to start making some real money finally. I got a nice comment, I think it was yesterday, on one of my shorts, trying to get people to, find the channel and understand what we're doing here. And the guy noticed that, I'm smoking a cigar, I'm in, full bib Carhartt. I had a Tractor Supply hat on at the time. Today it's a Carhartt hat because that's what I grabbed. Sit next to my toolbox, and got a general garage feel going on here, giving financial advice. And I actually think those things go together quite well. Most of the videos, all of the videos that I watch on financial advice, it's a guy behind a desk somewhere. Some of them are traveling, right? And they can go to all these countries. And they kind of look nice, put together, short cut hair. And then here I am sitting in a garage in front of some signs. We got a poem on the wall. We got tools all around me. I think that's actually a more natural setting for this information. Money isn't anything more than a tool that you're going to find in my garage, right? I got a small tractor for hay. I've got my, driver behind me over there behind the camera to, help put up this wall. All sorts of tools, and I have varying degrees of skills with those tools. I happen to have a high degree of skill with money. And that's what I'm trying to share. Money isn't anything more than a tool that you pick up to do work, right? And, a 0% credit card is the opportunity to get a tool for free to do work. I don't know a homesteader who would turn down a free excavator, free skid steer, free small tractor, even just free labor to come and help put up a small animal barn, right? A lot of us homesteaders are very comfortable with physical tools and work. We're not as comfortable with the idea that money is also just a tool to help drive our lifestyles. And so I do these videos out here because this is my life. This is what I learned the skill of money for. It is my tool to create this life. And I want to share that with everybody because I think there's a great opportunity for education around this particular tool that we all have access to. And that's why I've harped on the 0% credit card so much. The Diamond City Preferred Plus, because it's a 21-month 0%. They're giving you a tool for free for 21 months. Who wouldn't want to take advantage of that to grow their life into something more meaningful or productive or get closer to their ultimate life ending? I know that I certainly would. And so if you look at it as a tool and you get free access to it, really the only barrier is your skill with that tool. And that's what YouTube is for. I have learned how to operate a tractor and an excavator. I've learned how to use AI, Excel skills, even some selling skills and presentations, right? And so what I want to put out there is the ability for people to learn how to use money, entry level, slightly beyond entry level, because it makes a huge difference in your everyday life if you understand how to use this tool that's given to you. And that 0% credit card allows you, with nothing else other than to paying your monthly bills, your grocery bill, your gas bill for your car, your electric bill, your cell phone bill, the credit card company is saying, hey, keep your money for 21 months for free to do work with it, and you can pay us later. As long as you swipe our card, and we make I think it's 2.9% on the retailers, we're going to let you keep your money for almost 2 years for free. And I think that free access should be more exciting than society lets it on to be. But we have to know how to use it. We've talked about high interest savings accounts. I use SoFi. It's an online bank. It works for me. I think they're offering somewhere around 3.25%. It's an all-inclusive platform. You can open up a brokerage on that platform. I did for a while. But I now have my brokerage with Robinhood because it gives you cheap access to money, and we'll go through some of that at a later date. but you can get yourself a high interest savings account to put some money away. A lot of people do not have, $500, $1,000 for an emergency savings. Well, here's your opportunity to do that. Let's delay those payments, keep that money, and stick some of that money in an emergency savings. And now we can handle some of those things that come up, maybe a flat tire or, you need to pump your septic system. I have septic nuts, not town sewer and water. But we can handle that situation. We can get everybody set up with the high interest savings account as an emergency fund. And then from there, they're still saying, hey, you've got all this money that you spent. Don't pay us yet. Let's just have some discipline. Use that money as a tool and grow our income and pay them later when it's due. And so the generic investment is the S&P 500 index. I think everybody who invests for growth, most financial advisors would tell you to index your money, set it and forget it. You'll do just fine. The big companies will grow, the bad companies will fall out, and you're always going to own the S&P 500, which is essentially the largest companies in the U.S. It's super safe. So that plan is to let that money grow over 20 years, and you can't use it for boards for a wall, or your cigars, or your kids' Christmas, or your emergency savings account. And we'll get to that in a second, how this income becomes an even bigger emergency savings account. And that's why I like income. It's dynamic, it's flexible. As you start to grow your income, and we'll get into it, it connects to different things. Yes, you pay taxes. That's a good thing. That means you qualify for more loans. It can help you get a house. It can help you get better rates for car loans. It can help you get cheaper access to more credit cards at 0%. And so there are benefits to paying taxes and to growing your income. I think Elon Musk was, when he bought Twitter, and now it's X, he borrowed against his stock positions, and there was a whole bunch of pros and cons. I don't really care about Elon Musk or the pros and cons. What I care about is everybody who builds out an income portfolio can borrow from themselves at really low rates. I bought an RV this summer for my 7 kids because we couldn't afford to go on a regular vacation. Because I invest for income, I was able to borrow from myself at half the rate the banks were willing to give me, so I saved myself over just about 7 points of interest being able to borrow from myself. And on top of that, because I generate income, that income actually covers the payments on the trailer from the money that I borrowed from myself. And that means I don't have a credit check, which helps my credit score. It means I don't have a debt in my name, which also helps my credit score, which gives me more access to more free and or cheap money. And so these things build. It's a tool that builds and builds and builds, and the better you get with it, the easier life becomes. And so we want to put some money into SPY because that's pretty standard, and it yields 12.5%, which is fantastic. And then we also want to take a look at what's been driving the U.S. economy, which has been technology. And that's generally found in the NASDAQ 100, which is ticker symbol QQQ. And for us, no surprise, I'm going to go with NEOS. It's QQQI. And that's tech companies. A little bit more volatility, which means prices go up and down a little bit more, bigger swings, lower lows, higher highs in the S&P 500. But that volatility creates the bigger potential in the future for gains, which means there is more opportunity for us income investors to cash in on that higher future potential for more current income. And so that fund yields 14.5%. Those two funds have been around for a little while. There are a few other good ones I'm not going to mention here just yet, just to keep it simple. And they have not seen any sort of erosion or decay or some of the other scary terms you might hear from some of the other high, super high, ultra yield funds that we don't talk about here yet. And so those guys have proven to be pretty safe, pretty reliable. You don't have to launch them, and they have huge current income, which is what we're after. And so now we've got our 3 friends, right, sitting around campfire. We've got our high interest savings account. We've got the S&P 500, 12.5%. We've got QQQI, 14.5%. Now we want to invite, some of the fun over, right? I mentioned before, A lot of times when we spend, people shop at night on Amazon and you go out to the stores, you buy these little knickknacks, your morning coffee, that bagel that you get, a quick stop at McDonald's for lunch, gives us a little high, right? Human nature. Dividends or distributions from ETFs, as they're called, can do the same thing. And we went over cash flow and why paying monthly or once a week is advantageous to us as income investors, because it allows us to compound faster rather than the quarterly companies who compound that money for their own profits. There are a couple of funds I wanted to add to our group that pay weekly, which means you're going to get a paycheck every single Monday from Maggie, M-A-G-Y, and it yields about 35%, somewhere in there. And it's the 7 biggest companies in the U.S. Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, the ones that have grown and driven all of the growth that we've seen in the stock market. Most of that is coming from those 7 companies. And guess what that means? Huge potential for growth means huge potential for current income, and that's how they can justify that yield. Those stocks have returned 20, 30% every year, and so there's an opportunity to generate 20, 30% worth of income, and that's what that fund is doing. And it pays weekly, which means you compound your gains every week, which means you get a little bit more than you did the week before, and that builds up much faster than if you get paid quarterly or monthly, as we've talked about in other videos. But that's still pretty safe and conservative. The price on that is also pretty flat. The last 2 months have been not great, not awful, they've been fine. So a slight down on price last short term, but we don't care about that. The income has been great. The fund's overall return has been great. But we want to add a little bit more excitement, excuse me, as we're sitting around, building this portfolio together. And that's where I brought in blocks in my last video. BLOX, cryptocurrency. Whether you believe in it or not, the fact remains it's been an absolute monster of a returner. Also a roller coaster of a ride. It can go up 10%, down 10%. I've seen 15% swings in a day. So don't look at it. Again, that volatility, those huge swings, means a lot of current income. And blocks actually produces 36% yield, about 3% a month, which is fantastic. But in addition to that, unlike Maggie, which has a pretty steady price, it has the ability to grow. Right now, crypto is in a bear market, and I know everybody's heard the term buy low, sell high, and nobody really executes that, right? Everybody has the fear of missing out, and retail investors, which is what we are, catch it at the top, and then we get hammered on the way down, and then we sell out of panic. Right now, blocks is what I'm going to use the term is on sale. It's down, almost 40%. Could it go down more? Of course. Could it go back up? Of course. The important part for us is that when crypto recovers, in my opinion, I'm for it, it's going to recover in price as well and give us price return or growth while generating that 3% a month or 36% yield over the course of a year. All right, so why do we care about those 5 guys? What does this mean to you? It means that your money is going to work really hard for you without having to show up. Unlike an excavator or a tractor, where you have to physically be on the machine or pay a person to be on that machine, your money works while you sleep, while you are out on the tractor, while you're at your other job, while you take your wife out on a date, while you're opening Christmas presents with your kids. Your money will be working hard for you. And that's why it's so important to get things done, to understand how to use it. So if we take a look at those 5 things that we just talked about, and let's allocate 5% to a high yield savings account. That gives us an emergency fund that many of us don't have in the country. You're going to put, if we're using our $13,000 example, you get somewhere around like $700, $800 in there. I did the math. I'll put it in the link in the blog post. And that gives you that emergency savings account that currently you might not have, which is a great financial cushion to deal with, right? Then let's go generic. Let's say we put 35% in the general U.S. stock market, SPYI. Absolutely fantastic bet over the long term. It's your generic go-to in your 401k. Now let's go after the growth engine of the U.S. economy, which is technology. That's your NASDAQ 100, QQQI for us. Yield of 14%. Now we've got our 3 friends. We've got an emergency savings account, which is profitable because we're borrowing our tool of money for 0%, even though it's only a 3.25% return. We've got a 12.5% return on the general economy. We got a 14.5% return on technology. We bring in Maggie, the Magnificent Seven, the 7 big beautiful companies in the United States. That brings in a 35% yield paid out weekly. Then we bring in blocks for another 36% yield. And after about 12 months of putting away your expenses, $2,000 a month till you cap out at $13,000 at about 4.5 months. At the end of 12 months, you're making $220 a month, which to me is fantastic. And all you've done is delay the normal bills that you would pay because a credit card company wanted to give you a free tool to use, which if it was an excavator on a homestead, we'd be super excited about. But I think it gets a little bit better than that, because as you see these distributions hit your account, you start to get that hit of excitement for the money that comes into your account, rather than that hit of excitement when you buy another Leatherman, in my case, or a collectible cigar, or your morning coffee, right? So you start to get excited for these little paychecks that start to come in. And what you find is maybe a lot of the things you were spending your money on every day aren't that important to you. And this leads me to something else we talked about, I think, in my very first video. I had a coworker teach me this. I am a natural cost cutter, except you can only cut so much before it starts to really impact your life, right? But you have an unlimited growth potential. I mentioned Elon Musk. I believe he just got a $1 trillion pay package authorized at Tesla. And again, I don't really care about Elon Musk and how much he makes. The point is that you can make up to $1 trillion. And so it's a lot easier to grow your income into being a successful, to your successful life than it is to cut your expenses. But that doesn't mean if we're going to go out and run a homestead that we shouldn't do some belt tightening, that we shouldn't take care of our bodies, that we shouldn't get a little bit better at what we can get a little bit better at while we pick up these new skills. And so the only cost cutting that I would really advocate for is find in that monthly budget the ability to cover that minimum payment on the credit card every single month. And the reason that I say that is because at 0%, every dollar you send to that balance, which you should only pay your minimums, comes back to you in terms, right? You just now owe less. The credit card company is making $0 off of you, right? So you're just lowering your balance every single month that you send them in that minimum payment. But it makes you think about your spending. And it gives you the opportunity to practice discipline and good money habits. And that is what allows you to grow into the 5-year example that I'll put in the link in the description. And the reason I picked 5 years is because that's essentially a college education with an internship. I've talked about how college is, has a 40% failure rate, and investing is 100% over your lifetime from 18 to grade. And so in 5 years, instead of going to college where you're paying out money to pick up a new skill and starting at the bottom and trying to find a new job, or getting a master's degree and getting a small raise if you're like a teacher or something, right? After 5 years, your money will be working so hard for you with this setup that you'll be making almost $1,200 a month. You'll be making over $15,000 a year. If you do nothing, then tighten your belt enough to make the minimum payments on that credit card and invest in these funds and leave them alone. And I think $15,000 a year is a pretty good raise. Not only is it a pretty good raise, it's also obtainable. We've used none of our own money. All we did was for a few months delay our payments and then let all the money go to work for us. And I think that's where I'll sort of wrap up. If you get anything out of watching this video or some of the previous videos, that money is a tool, and you can grow your income by understanding how it works without having to have any money now. If you are just barely making your bills, this is for you. This is how you can alter your life. This is how you can make your life better. I've done it, as you guys will see as I walk around the property, I'm sure as I make more videos, and you can do it too. It's just that we were never taught these basic skills around money, and I wanted to be able to share the things that I've learned over my life. So again, if this was helpful, please like and subscribe. Trying to grow the channel to reach more people. I really enjoy doing this, so the more people I can reach, hopefully the more fun I'll have. Thank you for tuning in, and look forward to making another video.